Well, viewers, they say karma follows you home. But for IT employees in Bengaluru, it has started following them to work. In a unique initiative, the Bengaluru police has dropped nearly 200 emails. Well, this is all to the HR department and admins of IT companies with details about their employees who've broken traffic rules in the city. Now, well, this is still a pilot project. This is being done by the Traffic Police of Bengaluru East Division. And in a unique way to raise awareness against traffic violations, they're sending these emails. The drive is in the Silicon City's IT corridor in particular and spans between Outer Ring Road and Whitefield and surrounding areas. The area has been chosen given the steep increase in violations here. Also, we should understand there is also notorious traffic here, which is leading to a lot of problems, people being stuck, getting late to work and much more. Now, here's the drill. When the cops spot a rule breaker, they verify their ID and well, bingo, an email zips off to their company. The cops expect no response or action by the companies here, but they hope they make their employees aware about safe driving practices, they say. Now, at this point, the question that we are asking our viewers, and our phone lines, of course, are open for all of you to, bring out your voices, your concerns regarding this, or if you think this is a good move by the traffic police, your opinions and suggestions are open. The numbers are flashing on your screen. We'll open this up with a bunch of panelists as well who are with us. We've also spoken to a group of Bengalurians about what they think about this particular move. We'll bring that up as well. But before that, let me introduce our panelists. Bhavya Narasimhamurthy from the Congress is with us today. Arvind Kumar Jain, he's a former DGP. He's also with us. Lloyd Matthias, he's an independent director. Elangovan, he's a CEO of Zinnea. Bhavesh C, a software engineer from Juniper Network. All of them with us today. So let me take it across first to Elangovan and Bhavesh. Mr. Elangovan, what would you make of a rule like this? Because you have been living around the IT corridor for quite some time. If you break a traffic rule, are you going to be comfortable, these mails being shot to the HR or the admin?
Okay, see, let's go to the good news first. At least there is some seriousness about fixing the violations, right? I think that's a positive step, but I'm not sure if this is the right way to go about it, right? See, if the cops want to raise awareness levels about following traffic rules, that's fine. That's a different thing. But I think this is probably a bit too much, sharing private information about a violation, which is between the violator and the traffic police, right? With the corporate. I think I'm not sure whether that passes the sting test. So. Well, from an awareness perspective, it's fine. But I think from an ease of doing business perspective, I don't think the corporates will want to take on this responsibility. What do you want them to do? Fine. Whatever, doing awareness sessions for traffic rules and, best practices, that's fine. But I think, violations being shown to the corporates, I'm not sure whether that's a good idea. And I don't even know whether it passes the privacy test. So.
Yes, these are concerns, of course, that definitely come up, whether, they're seeping into the privacy of these individuals, do the bosses at work or the admin at work or the HR needs to know about these violations. Mr. Bhavesh, you're a software engineer. What do you make of, a move like this by the traffic police?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good step, but at the same time, I don't know, would it improve or not? Why? Because even if the emails are sent to our HR team and the people, the thing is they have got an additional responsibility now. Maybe as they do a fire drill, they can do some traffic drill as well. But how would it impact all the employees? What would HR do? Why do they want to take some extra responsibility? As a concern, they would still think that to make the ease of violations, they can do this. But how would it affect the employees? Employees would take it lightly until and unless any charges are fined from the employees as well. So this, in a good step, it is good that the traffic police is trying to help us and reduce the violations. But the concern here is main thing is the traffic. If the traffic is reduced, at least during the peak times, in some ways, using the technology, then the violations can also be reduced. But blaming to that, stating that so many people have done the violations, then as my colleague also mentioned, that privacy is the main thing, because the data breach can obviously concerns and the data leak can happen.
Yeah.
So in the good part is that yes, traffic police are trying to come up with the new ways, but at the same time privacy matters, and is this really going to reduce the violations? That we need to check whether it really helps us or in any such ways.
Okay. Bhavesh, I have another individual from Bengaluru who's just called in, as our phone lines right now are open. Sridhar is joining us. Sridhar, quickly, if you could make your point.
Yeah, my point is very simple. We have the three-wheeler vehicles which takes the role of around a car, okay, four-wheeler, okay. That's the first biggest problem. Second, they do not drive in the right path and they are not questioned. Third, we have the BMTC going through, which they keep on the right and then they turn on the left without any indication, because they have no...
Well, lane discipline is 100% a concern. But the question here is, most of the challenges that are now coming out, and at least if you go by what you listen from the people on the ground, it is for people not wearing a helmet, not wearing a seat belt. You know, these are one of the largest chunks of fines. Do they really help in easing traffic? Or even if the other fines are helping serve as a deterrent, sending them to the HRs, does this serve a purpose? That's the core issue that we are discussing. I'm going to the former DGP here, lawyer, Mr. Arvind Kumar Jain, so that we get a perspective. Mr. Jain, you know, when you look at a rule like this come to the fore, to give you a perspective of how things have changed in Bengaluru as far as traffic policing is concerned, more than people being caught on the ground by the police physically for violations, right now they're using cameras, but many people are taken aback. There was a recent case, a man who's driving a scooty has a 3 lakh rupee fine. And this is for him not wearing a helmet almost on a regular basis. Now, until he's physically caught, he continues to drive. Now, do you think that maybe having such moves, writing it to the company, raising awareness will help in any way?
Yes, it is going to help. It is going to help. And it will help traffic police, because once people know that if they violate traffic laws, they have to pay penalty also. And at the same time, their HR and admin will be made aware of. So naturally, they will market to him that you should be cautious in future. It will spread very fast in the company, in the IT sector, that traffic police is writing mails to HR and admin. And naturally, they will hesitate to violate law. They are educated people, they are in IT industry, and they are supposed to follow laws. And if they are not following this procedure which has been adopted, I think it will pay dividends, and it will help traffic police in maintaining pressure on traffic violators, and especially connected to IT industry. I think it's a very good drive, and it should continue on a model basis for some time. And we should wait for the consequences. But I am 100% confident that whatever is there in public domain, because challan has been issued, fine has been imposed, so it's not a matter of privacy. It is in public domain, and you can pass on that. They are not asking for a second fine because you cannot write for that. You have already taken fine, or you are going to take penalty from them. But you can always write to them to educate them and to educate the companies that your employees are violating traffic rules, and kindly put in a word so that they are cautious in future.
But doesn't this, Mr. Jain, doesn't this become very selective? Why only people from the IT corridor? They're not the only violators of traffic. There are crores of rupees that are collected in fine, especially now after, in the last couple of years, after a lot of cameras were introduced in the city. So these are questions that do come up, but you know, I'm going to take some of your points which were completely valid as well. We have a few callers. Let's get some more perspectives here. Dr. Natarajan is joining us. He's from Chennai. Dr. Natarajan, you're from the neighboring, state, but a move like this in the IT capital, do you think something like this should probably find a feature in Chennai as well?
Yeah, we have the same traffic problem in Chennai as well. But this idea of the Bengaluru police is quite interesting, that they want to create some kind of a peer pressure through the organization. Rather than creating a professional peer pressure or organizational pressure, it will be much better if they can create it through the family. The family's emotional pressure will be much better, which means suppose a rider or a car driver violates the law, violates the traffic rule, there will be a fine, all right, but let that person's spouse be informed that so-and-so has been fined by the traffic police. If the person is not married, then inform the parents. It's very easy to track the phone numbers and addresses of all these people. With the kind of network we have, with the kind of Aadhaar card details, everything that's available, it's possible. Okay?
Okay. Point taken. KV Gupta is also joining us from Bengaluru. Mr. Gupta, go ahead.
Good evening to everyone. As an old-time Bangalorean, my input on this whole issue is that the question of shifting responsibility. I personally believe that the Bengaluru police have become postmen. They have become couriers. They have become agencies. It is not their job to send emails to companies to tell them that their employees are erring. All they have to do is to catch them, fine them. And I think a new introduction that's come in is community service instead of putting people into jail. I think the Bangalore police should actually look into introducing community service. And they should look at an idea from other cities where when people were not paying up their loans, the banks used to take the people who are known as hijdas or transvestites, etc., who would go and shame them in public. I think that is a better answer than sending an email to some company. There are about 2,000 to 3,000 IT companies in Bangalore. So these are my two inputs.
Okay, well, some of those ideas are rather bizarre, but some of your points taken there. We have a few more callers lined up, but there are some aspects that I want to continue to discuss here. Elan, I'm going to come. In fact, I also have Mr. Lloyd Matthias. He's the director, independent director who's joining us. Mr. Matthias, you know, while you have certain options, because these are something that have been mulled in the past, that while you renew your insurance, make it mandatory that, you know, you pay up your fines. That is one of the easiest ways that you can collect it. And every year people will definitely go back and look, because right now people are even unaware of the kind of fines that they have. And this is 60% of the people you meet. There are applications where you key in your, you know, registration number and it does throw up the fines. And especially most of them come with a photograph now. But if you do something as simple as probably, you know, renewal of your insurance, which comes in every year, these problems will be solved by themselves.
Absolutely, Deepak. I think per se, this is a ridiculous move to link an employee's driving skills in a sense of a clear case of overreach. At one level, it invades an employee's right to privacy and actually makes an employer accountable for areas that he should not really have control over. I mean, I do take the case that, you know, traffic regulations have to find a solution. But I think reaching out to an employee...
What does a company have to do with any employee outside, you know, the place of business? He has nothing to do with the employee there. What he does outside his office, you know, the employer has no control over it.
Exactly. Though in this one specific instance, I would say given the amount of ride-hailing services, Uber and Ola taxis, and the number of, you know, you can say restaurant-hailing services or food delivery apps like Swiggy and Zomato, and they tend to be a lot of violators. I think they're establishing some link with the employers, not really employers, but the main apps and reporting on errant drivers, I think may be helpful. So maybe those employees will have points to deduct from their drivers. But I think for general employees, and like some of the previous speakers mentioned, IT employees, I think it completely invades the right to privacy. I mean, the next thing, you know, I mean, the police will be reaching out to. So this, in the sense, is the police transferring their responsibility onto somebody else. The clear case of policing is if somebody is violating traffic, send him a ticket. For repeated violations, make sure that he has to pay additional fines. But reporting to the employer, naming and shaming, I think is a clear case of overreach and something that will not stand legally.
Okay. Elan, where you were talking about, you know, whether this actually passes the check marks as far as privacy is concerned, and if the traffic police are saying we don't expect anything from the company, all that we expect is probably them being notified we don't expect them to go and tell the employer about it to make sure he pays the fine. There's no onus on them. Do you feel that awareness can be created in many other ways? Probably hold some campaigns in those IT, parks or in those companies. Ensure there is at least an hour that's given for, ensuring that traffic rules are followed.
Yeah, I think that's a better idea, right? See, I understand, the constraints under which the traffic cops operate, right? I think given the kind of explosive growth we have had and given the kind of infrastructural shortfall that we have, right, to keep up with the growth, I think they're doing a phenomenal job trying to, manage the traffic, right? We had Mr. Salim, Dr. Salim, who was a PhD in traffic management, who cleaned up a lot of the, bottlenecks and all that, right? I think we had to go to the root of why is this happening, right? One could be cultural, right? One could be that, we want to get ahead or whatever. I think the second problem is that, we just have too many vehicles on the road and we just don't have enough roads to, to cater to that, right? So I think whatever is the shortfall of the other departments, like be it BBMP, be it, BMTC, be it, Metro, right? Where there is no last mile connectivity, the pink line or the purple line, which is already operational, it's already, overbooked or, overcrowded during peak hours, right? So I think we have a shortfall in infrastructure, be it the number of buses, be it the number of, coaches in the metro or whatever. And, we don't have the last mile connectivity. So how do people walk to the metro station or, what are the connectivity options? Those are not there. And the cops are trying to, fill this gap, right? See, if you want them to pay the fine, there are different ways, right? Recently a friend of mine sent me how in Eastern Europe, right, a violation was caught on a German car, and then that, went to the rental car company, and the rental car company detected the, who was the guy who was driving it and took it from his credit card.
I
right?
agree.
So
now, but Elan, the larger question here is, what is the traffic police trying to achieve? Are they trying to reduce the traffic? Does this really serve the purpose, or are they trying to ensure that the fines that have been captured or through the cameras or through the police officers, the money from the fines reaches the department? Which is the intention is something that we'll have to look at. I have multiple callers who are waiting, so I'll go to them and I'll come back to all of you all. Captain Jagpal from Rohtak is with us. He's been waiting for quite some time. Captain Jagpal, go ahead.
Well, good evening to you and good evening to your very light panel. I very respectfully disagree with all of them. What is that law administration? An administrator is who is very firm and very considerate. A policeman, a retired, such a senior man telling them, be persuasive, find some other ways. That is just not required. Just find them and find them. And another ingenuity is reduce the speed, maximum speed to 20 at peak hours. People will walk and use cycles. But there is no question of who is the... If you are a man worth your salt...
Captain Jagpal, the question here that we are asking or what we are discussing isn't about fining. Nobody is questioning the police's intention to fine. If there is a violation, they should, face the law. That's not the question here at all. The question here is the police actually going to another level and writing to the IT company HRs. And when you're talking about reducing the traffic, since you're from Rohtak, you're probably not aware that in peak hours, the speed of vehicle movement here is less than 20. So that's not even a concern. But some of your points, I understand what you mean by, traffic fines are very important to control, the city in terms of ensuring that we do not have violations and accidents. Let me move in, bring in other, callers as well. Sridhar from Mysuru is also with us. Mr. Sridhar, go ahead.
It's a great opportunity. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Looking at the scenario over here today, when the road is hardly around 20 kilometers speed for any vehicle, helmet is not there. The potholes, the humps, which is unscientifically paid up. So how do we expect to have a speedy road? A clean road, a neat road. I really respect the traffic police officers. They are really doing a hard job. They're really doing a very good job. I really respect them. That's all I can say.
But would you be okay, Mr. Sridhar, if the challan and the information about all your traffic violations went to your boss?
Please, it has to come because they know what is the speed of the traffic which is coming through and what is to be done. It's up to the the development authority to fix the problem. I really don't expect traffic.
Okay, OP Sharma from Delhi is also with us. Mr. Sharma, what is your take on this?
See, my take is that we act and we work as per law of this country. Now, there is a Motor Vehicles Act 1988, which is amended from time to time. And then there is IPC. This chalaning or traffic violations, it's a compoundable offense. Now, when there is a compoundable offense, means you pay fine. If you don't pay fine, then you face the consequences. Now, writing to some organization and defaming somebody would attract ultimately the defamatory law. And I can pull up the police. So I am very amazed and surprised, that a very senior retired DG or IG who is supposed to be an IPS officer is endorsing this kind of a move, because once somebody defames me under IPC 500, I can always take them to task. So we have to absolutely be within the jurisdiction and the prerogative of the law itself, We can't work on fancies.
Okay, let's have Mr. Jain respond to that. Since you brought up a point legally, let's have Mr. Jain respond to that. Mr. Jain.
People are reading too much between the lines. It is not that. It's something very simple, that they are just informing the HR and the administration. I tell you, my son also works for such a company. Companies want that travel should be absolutely safe. They should drive with a helmet. They should drive with a belt on, and no traffic violation is permitted there, because it can involve the life and security of an individual, of their worker. In just informing them, it does not entail any law of privacy. It does not violate any law of privacy. They can always do it. They are just informing them. They are not asking them to pull up the subordinate or to impose some fine on him. This is just for educational purposes. They are doing it just so that companies are aware.
Now, the only lacuna here that I see in this, while I agree with you on certain levels, and there are certain disagreements as well that I have, that where the lacuna here really lies is, this is a small group of people that we are talking about compared to the large group of violators in the city. So why only go and have a target of sorts here? Because there is data available about where they work through their ID cards or whichever way that they identify their employer. And sometimes, there would have been people who've switched companies, and you're still sending this piece of information to the older company. There's so much really, that comes into picture here. And the root question that I had earlier is, what purpose does it serve? Does it serve the purpose of awareness, or does it serve the purpose of filling the coffers of the traffic police department? Because they time and again mention that traffic violations and the fine they collect, they're not really interested in it, and they want to solve the traffic problem. But it somewhere feels like going after the IT crowd ensures that the collection of fines happen.
Yeah.
No, collect. Sorry.
Yeah, Deepak, sorry, if I may interject. Right. See, one of the things, right? See, if you look at some of the Western countries, right, there is a point system, right? If you have so many violations, or if you have serious violations, then you collect points on your driving, history, and your license may get suspended. Your premiums, go up depending on the number of violations. See, we don't have any of those basic laws in place, right? I think some of those need to be fixed so that, there is a serious price.
Because what happens, Elan, with those kind of laws, it becomes more of a governance thing. And then the government comes into the picture, then votes come into the picture, then politics comes into the picture, and nobody wants to get into that because it makes things more complicated.
I understand, but I think that's the only way you're going to change the driving culture in this country, right? See, either you provide the infrastructure, or you provide public transport, right? Or you govern, or you do all three, right? You can't just go after, like you said, you can't just go after one minuscule population because, it's easier to go after them. What about the companies or the food delivery guys who are promised, let's say, 10 minutes? Or 30 minutes, or whatever that is, or you get penalized if you don't deliver on time, or the customer gets. So what are we doing about those? How many violations are being caused because they are under pressure to go and deliver within a certain point in time? right? So I think those are all the fundamental issues which are, which are leading to this traffic issue, rather than just going after this, the guys who are easy to get.
Yeah. Right. I have many callers. I'm requesting all our guests who are with us to be a little patient so that we can give some opportunities to the opinions they have as well. Shinoy right now from Vizag is joining us. Mr. Shinoy, go ahead.
See, I've heard a number of speakers mentioning various things. There's nothing wrong about the police contacting the HR department of companies. I remember me as being a head of the HR and admin and safety under me. We made it mandatory for all our employees to wear their helmets, to see that they follow traffic rules in the interest of their own families, because their life is precious to their families and to the organization. Making this awareness, automatically employees very willingly followed all the rules. So there's nothing wrong in what the police is doing. It's approaching the so-called high-tech companies or whatever it is. But I'm sure every good company should have safety rules and regulations. And under those safety rules and regulations, if they tell their employees it is in your own benefit that you follow this, because whatever speed a person may drive, I have seen accidents where a person, even with 10 kilometer speed, without a helmet, falling down and dying on the spot. So it's got nothing to do with this, but it's a sort of a general awareness and organization, the HR, the safety department, in all organizations, be it state government. This is the only way we can help to avoid accidents and see that traffic rules are followed, is my personal view. Thank you.
Okay. Ravi Kumar from Bengaluru is also with us. Mr. Kumar?
Yeah, hi, Ravi. Hello. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Ravi.
Yeah.
Yes, Ravi, go ahead. Please go ahead.
This is Ravi from Bangalore. I live in Bangalore and I also work for an IT company, so I thought I'll give my view on this. The gentleman, the DGP who says the cop who is there in your TV panel, with due respects, I'll tell him that he's supporting, and there's another HR manager who called just now and said that you support it. See, I'll tell you, this is all about, you're indirectly giving another person to monitor you on certain things, right? Why only the techie people? Why are you writing to the email of an official email? I think people do not understand how IT team works, IT companies work, because I think they are not revealing the real reason. The reason what I am thinking is that if there is an email which is sent to an official email, people are trying to play on the mind games and say that, okay, the email has come to my office email, so I'll have to be careful because my HR is knowing about it, because my manager is knowing about it. This is what they are playing on a mind game. Otherwise...
But it could also serve as a deterrent from you, breaking traffic rules or having pending challans, isn't it?
No, but how do you know that the HR manager is not 25 years young and then he himself is violating it? See, I will tell you at this stage, when somebody joins a HR company, when somebody joins a software company, right? I mean, you cannot assume that he is not well thought enough or he's not well educated that he violates. I don't expect my HR or some other software company HR to tutor on how they have to behave on roads, or it is not their responsibility, right? We have got our own responsibility.
Your point taken. You are clearly saying that you don't need any tutoring, especially from your place of work, about traffic violations. Kaushal, he's joining us from Pune. Let me take his perspective as well. Go ahead, Mr. Kaushal. Well, we seem to have lost that line. Meanwhile, I'm requesting all our panelists to stay with us. We spoke to a lot of Bengalurians earlier in the day about what they think about this move. So let's listen to some of those, voices as well at this point.
The Bangalore Traffic Police is putting in place a system where you break a fine, but your employer gets alerted. Do you think this is going to help, or is this going to shame employees further?
How are you going to implement this? Like, how do you know which employer you're working for? There's a lot of details that is missing.
Okay, if the cops find out where you're working and your company gets alerted, do you think...
But they did nothing wrong. Like, why should they pay for it? Like it's the employee, maybe he's off duty and maybe he wants to have some good time. He broke a few laws. Why should the company pay for it?
I think I totally agree with him. Employers should not know. It's employee who is doing everything. Why should employer get into all this, right? Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I think there are already sufficient laws. It's just the implementation. At some point of time, the fatigue sets in and we all go back to the basics and we just carry on with our life. So if it is going to be implemented, there are already enough laws. We don't need something new. And I think if citizens are responsible, I think we can manage even without this law.
Okay. I don't think just knowing about it helps. Maybe if they get notified and that gets taken out of their pay, or like get warnings and then after some time, if you're still breaking rules, then gets taken out of their pay, maybe that's taken seriously. But just informing people does nothing.
I'm trying to think about why they came to this conclusion, right? Or like why they chose this path, and I can't really think of anything because like now it feels like a lot of extra steps to connect your ID to your employers, and then like I don't see where this is going. Like I don't see how this is going to benefit people directly. It just feels like they're taking action for the sake of taking action.
Well, Mr. Arvind Kumar Jain, I'm going to come back to you because, it seems like at least the voices that we've been hearing, the majority of them are against it. Some of them are questioning the people who are for it. Especially the younger crowd seems to be completely against this particular move. Okay, we seem to have lost that line with Mr. Jain. I'm going to go back to Mr. Lloyd, Matthias and also Bhavesh. They've also been patiently waiting. Mr. Matthias, at this point, what is your final word, because we have little time left on this debate. So quickly, if I could take in the final comments from all our guests. Mr. Matthias.
Yeah, thanks, Deepak. I think essentially this smacks of overreach. I think like the employees that you just spoke in the Vox Pop section, I think making employers accountable for something they have no control over is crazy. I think this also speaks of overreach on the part of police. What next? They're going to ask, traffic violators, their kids' schools' names and have a little notice in school saying your mom and dad is a bad driver. I think it's really kind of reaching a crazy level. The key issue I think the traffic needs to get after is to look at fleet owners, whether it's Uber, Ola, Swiggy, Zomato, the Bangalore State Transport or the Bangalore City Transport Corporation. And I think if they can link those violations to their employers because they're largely on the street, I think that will help. And secondly, persuading employers to send out advisories to their employees about using helmets, using seat belts, I think that will be helpful. But just notifying employees actually is a violation of privacy and something that really won't help the situation, in my opinion.
Okay, violation of privacy. Bhavesh, I feel you probably agree with that statement.
Yes, I do agree. Just want to add one point. It's a good initiative, but I'm sure that it would not be that beneficial because we have so many loopholes also. Data breach is there. And until and unless we find the employee, either if the traffic police comes up with a thing with the HR that they need to get deducted from the pay, then this will get implemented. But I don't think that will ever happen. So it's a no-go for me.
Okay. Elan, quickly, if you could make a couple of points other than what they mentioned.
Yeah. So one is the data breach, and other thing is if we can try to come up with some other thing wherein because usually the peak time is only 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. And at the same time, we also have this Blinkit who gives the morning delivery, right? So with
Bhavesh, I was taking that question across to Elan.
Yeah,
Elan, if you could quickly make a point. I have about a minute left on the debate.
Yeah, I think, as I said, Deepak, I think they are clutching at straws right now, right? The traffic cops, because of the explosive growth and the lack of infra to keep up and the lack of public transport. I think, I feel for them. I applaud them for all their efforts to manage the traffic, but I think this is the wrong way to go. I think they should probably ask for legislative support. They should ask for infrastructure support. Traffic cops can only do so much. So if you want to do this right, yes, go for the awareness sessions, right? Go for the awareness sessions. Go for effectively collecting the fines. Go for changing driving behavior, right? Who are these drivers, right? who allowed them to pass the driving test? I think we have to go back to many of those things, right? How is the driving test happening today? Right?
Yes, I think some of the points, Alan, that you mentioned today are very interesting. It's something for the traffic police and the government in particular to consider, because the traffic police unilaterally cannot take big decisions, which will of course affect the politics in the state as well, and affect the mentality of the people. And when I talk about that, I'm talking about some of the suggestions that you made of, putting up points on a person's driving license, and eventually which leads to either increase in premium or a person not able to renew his insurance, or various other means, which will of course cause a ripple effect of sorts in the city. But it is definitely going to bring down the violations, is what I believe. But it is of course for the administration to decide. I have one last caller who I'm going to make some time for. Sujit from Cochin joins us. Sujit, quickly, if you could make your point.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for the opportunity. I think, the police actually informing the employers is something like passing the buck, So they are not able to control the situation themselves. So the police is passing the buck to the employer. So I don't agree with all this information being passed on to the employers. In my view, the biggest violators are the auto rickshaw drivers, the road transport company drivers, and people like that. They have to do something on that front rather than focus on employees of some companies.
Yes, right, Sujit. Thank you. Your point taken. That's interesting, because some of the questions that I raised today in this particular debate were, what is the intention of this? What purpose does it serve? Of course, through various opinions that we've heard from our panelists and from our callers as well, we've gotten to probably understand what people in Bengaluru think. Some of them, of course, for it. Some of them are against it. But it is, of course, for the traffic police to decide whether they want to continue to go ahead with this particular plan of theirs. With that, we're going to slip into a quick break. I'm thanking all our panelists. We'll be right back with more news and updates.